Well, we heard the machine gun stop firing and we just assumed that you'd been killed. He's like, no. I only quit firing because they quit coming. Dan Daly has effectively pulled off the impossible. He has single-handedly defeated 200 rebels by himself, saving all of the civilians as well as saving the day. All the Marines are like, holy shit.
It's like as if he was, he didn't know that he was a game character.
Hello guys,
Hi everyone,
I am Waldemar.
and I'm Weronika, and it looks like it's gangster time.
Yeah, finally we are watching Fat Electrician again. It's been some time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, we are saving those videos of Fat Electrician because as you know, we like this guy very much and it was like a discovery on this channel. We never heard of him before you guys recommended him to us, and since then every video of his was just pure gold.
Yeah, indeed.
They are funny, they are very informational,
Yeah.
just all around great videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't want to like milk him too much, you know.
Yeah, it almost feels unfair, to be honest, because that's the most watched video on our channel and we are always sure to get some traction from his videos. So it feels like cheating to just, go 2 weeks in a row and just watch all of the videos of his. And we also want to provide you with some varied content, not just, leech of one creator.
Exactly. So we don't want to, create this channel into like Fat Electrician reaction videos.
Yeah.
So we are not going to upload those videos more often than now, which is like once every 5 weeks, something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah. But having said that, if you have any favorites of his that you would like us to watch first, especially since we're not gonna be watching
Or about
them
animals.
weekly, sorry,
Or about animals.
then you can drop them in the comments. But I think we've watched everything about the animals, but the one about the duck. There was a duck one that for us that's left to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
But the others we have watched, and we have a whole playlist with Fat Electrician videos that you can check out after you finish this one, if you're into that sort of thing. Since we usually have your attention at the beginning, I would just also like to ask again if you have any historical channel that you follow. For example, if you're Fat Electricians fans and you could share that with us. It doesn't have to even be specific videos, but we would be curious to see something new as well.
Yeah.
Some other content. It doesn't have to be history, just something political or cultural as well. That would be nice. Maybe not political, but like cultural. That also would be nice.
Why not political?
Well, not like
Are you
strictly,
scared?
not like strictly political, more like economical. I'd say I think that's more interesting for everyone. But yeah, that would be perfect because I've been browsing Reddit, subreddits, internet to see some content, what people enjoy, that we may also discover. But it's very difficult to discover something on your own if you don't already know that it's good.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And this content that Fat Electrician does is kind of unique
Mhm.
because mostly when you would see a historical video, it kind of summarizes the whole subject, the whole topic, and he does the opposite. He does not focus on the summary, on the big picture. He is telling interesting stories about pieces of a bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. I think he strikes me as a good history teacher that would make sure that you still have the dates and you still understand what happened and you could still pass the test, but also he really catches your attention with making these stories personal. That's why his videos so often revolve after this specific person or this specific event, because you really can imagine that. And he's really good at storytelling. I still can't get over the fact that he has barely any pictures, barely any animations. You just watch him talk and you can see everything he's talking about.
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
why I don't see him that much as a history teacher. For me, he's more like a cool guy who's sitting with you.
that's also true.
You are doing barbecue or something, and he's like the guy who
Why
has
barbecue?
who has
Because he has no sleeves? Maybe he's a vegetarian.
I don't think he's
I don't
vegetarian.
think he's a vegetarian, but maybe.
But he's like a guy who has the attention of the entire table because he's just funny. He is telling great stories, and you just like to listen to him.
Yeah, that's also true.
Like the soul of the party.
But
Today is a video called "The Most Gangster Marine of All Time," Dan Daly, and everything about Fat Electrician videos. They are always gangsta.
Yeah, they're always gangster, and they're always the most gangster ones. And so far, it was very hard to argue that they were indeed the most gangster of all time. So I think we're about to...
Like the guy, the Cassius Clay, remember?
Yes, Cassius Clay. Yeah. Or the horse, Sergeant Reckless.
Yeah,
he was the most gangster horse. So that. Okay, well, let's get into it, I guess. I am very excited. I'm always excited to watch his video.
Yeah, me too. Let's begin.
All right, go ahead and make your prediction now. Who would win in a fight? 200 Kung Fu practitioners with melee weapons or one Marine with a machine gun?
the other.
Today we're talking about the most
Whack.
gangster Marine ever. A man so remarkable that General Lejeune himself would declare him to be the most outstanding Marine of all time. A man that was so fierce on the battlefield that General Smedley D. Butler, one of only 2 Marines to ever receive the Medal of Honor twice, would declare him to be the fightingest Marine he ever knew. Ladies and gentlemen, the only other Marine to receive the Medal of Honor twice, Sergeant Major Dan Daly. Born in New York on November
To get the Medal of Honor twice is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that much about the medals that you can get in United States or Poland too, to be honest. I don't know that much about the medals. But I heard about Medal of Honor and I read about it, and it's like a very interesting thing, you know?
Is it the one, wait, I'm trying to remember what you told me. Is it the one that even if there are officers of a higher rank, then they have to salute you?
Yeah.
What happens if the officer of the higher rank also has the Medal of Honor? Does he still salute you?
Yeah, I think then if he is higher rank, then you have to salute
Oh
him
my god, but
first.
there's you have already so much knowledge and skill that you have to acquire as an officer, as a soldier, and then you also have to remember who's higher rank in you and who also happens to have the Medal of
No,
Honor.
that's why there is only one award like this. There is only Medal of Honor. There is no other
Yeah.
medal that you need to also remember to salute the guy.
Yeah, I'm joking. I guess it's easy to remember.
It's so unique. But to get it twice, that's incredible. Because very often people are getting the Medal of Honor post-mortem, like after they died.
Or they did something so grand. I think them, at least from my knowledge, that it very often incapacitates them from further service because, you know, their sacrifice was so great they end up like disabled or not able to serve anymore, or they are older because it's for all of their achievements that they did up to that point. But yeah, to get it twice is
I wonder what
it's even better than get an Oscar twice, I guess. Not Oscar. I wanted to say Nobel Prize. Oscar twice is not good. That's not that popular.
Yeah,
I wanted to say Nobel
I think
Prize.
there is Medal of Honor, the Nobel Prize, or that depends.
Yeah,
but,
Oscar is not running in that competition.
Oscar, you just need to pay a lot of money, and then you can
And
get
meet the quotas. Yeah.
November 11th, 1873, Dan Daly would grow up competing as an amateur boxer as well as working as a paperboy. And while working as a paperboy might seem like the useless details you throw in at the beginning to humanize the main character, in this case, it's anything but, because him working as a paperboy would create a butterfly effect through time that would change the US military as a whole. You see, you gotta remember that this is the late 1800s and information and news didn't spread the same way it does today, so working as a paperboy back then meant that he always got the newspaper, meaning that he had more information at his fingertips than 99% of the population. Because of this, he would be able to closely follow the exploits of future President Theodore Roosevelt and his famous Rough Riders all throughout the Spanish-American War. And this would go on to be his inspiration to join the US Marine Corps, hoping that he too would be able to fight in the Spanish-American War. So that's exactly what he would do on January 10th, 1899, when Dan Daly would enlist in the United States Marine Corps at the age of 16 years old, coming in at only 5'6" and 135 pounds. But hey, as the old adage goes, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's about the size of the fight in the dog. You see, the real problem here wasn't his stature, but the fact that he joined to fight in the Spanish-American War, and the Spanish-American War ended on December 10th, 1898, exactly 1 month prior to his enlistment date, but the news hadn't spread that far yet, so he ships off to training anyways.
Oh, no.
So fast forward, he finishes up training, realizing the Spanish-American War's over, he's kind of like, meh, I mean, the Spanish got off lucky, can't help it. I mean, let's face it, I'm gonna get the action I'm looking for at some point, right? This is America. We've been a country for like 124-ish years at this point. We've been not in armed conflict for all of like 45 seconds at this point. Surely something's gonna pop up soon. So he ends up getting put on ship duty over in the Asiatic fleet on the USS Newark. And sure enough, like after a month of being there, the Boxer Rebellion breaks out, and guess whose ship is the closest one to be able to respond? Dan Daly. Alright, real quick, oversimplified explanation of what the Boxer Rebellion is in case you have absolutely no idea. At this point in time,
something
China
about
had
this.
really just been opened up to the rest of the world, and foreign influence is just flooding in. You have Western businesses going in there trying to make money. You've got Western governments going in there being like, hey, you guys want some democracy?
Yeah. The Boxers were the ones, I think, that were against this globalization of China.
Okay.
And because China was pretty poor at this time, and there were a lot of powers like the British, like the Americans, who like influenced China too much, and they were draining them.
Democracy, and then you had missionaries going in there also trying to spread Christianity. And all of this influence came so fast, so quick, that a large portion of the Chinese population felt that it was too much, too soon, and they started to push back and started a nationalist movement. Part of this nationalist movement was a bunch of young men that practiced Kung Fu. Now, to somebody from the West, Kung Fu looks an awful lot like shadow boxing, so they just referred to these young men as boxers, hence the term Boxer Rebellion. These boxers got together, started their own little club called the Society of the Righteous and Harmonious Fist, and then proceeded to run around beating the
Sounds
shit out
pretty
of
cool, to
and
be
or
honest.
killing every foreign diplomat, businessman, and missionary they could find. And it is at that point that the Marines get sent in. So Private Daly and the rest of the Marines show up to Peking, China, which would later go on to become known as Beijing, the capital of China, at which point they promptly and immediately take over a large legation center on the southern border wall of the city, known as the Tartar Wall. They then gather up all the refugees they can find, get them inside the legation center, and set up a defensive perimeter. Things are going well, now we're just waiting for reinforcements. Problem, hours and hours go by, the reinforcements don't show up, and it's about to be dark out. So at this point, the Marine leadership's thinking like, hey, the reinforcements are definitely on the way, they wouldn't just leave us here, which means the reinforcements have gotten lost because, I mean, let's face it, if there was ever a time or a place where the directions of go to the giant building on the big fucking wall wasn't specific enough, it would be in China, right? I mean, they're known for their big ass walls. It's kind of their thing. So they're lost out there. We need to go find them before nighttime. Otherwise, they're going to get ambushed by like
I think a big part of his strength when he tells these stories is that he speaks in a way you would write a fictionalized historical book with small elements of fiction. But stay with me. What I mean is that he always, even if it's a longer period of time that he has to describe, he always chooses like 5 or 6 days that he goes into a lot of detail. So like right now he says like, oh, it was getting dark, they were thinking this and they were thinking that and they had to do this. So you really get into those soldiers and it's like watching a movie. I think that's why one of the parts why you can so vividly see what he's talking about. Because he's not just talking, they moved from this country to this country and then they defeated these people, which you cannot even imagine. But he's going into the emotion of those.
He's not going like that.
Yeah.
It's going more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Thank you.
like 1,000 of these Kung Fu guys, and they're all gonna get killed. So we're all gonna leave, go find the reinforcements, and come back. Private Daly, you're gonna stand guard here by yourself. Now, I don't know what the logic was behind this. I don't know if it was like, fuck Private Daly, he's the new guy, he can have the shitty job, or if it was like, hey, Private Daly's a new guy, this mission's really dangerous, let's leave him here where it's safe. Or maybe they knew he was the main character and that he had plot armor. I have no idea. Either way, Private Daly is now effectively playing goalie for America for all of these refugees. So sure enough, like an hour after all the other Marines leave, hundreds of Boxer rebels show up and they're looking for a fight. Now, a couple of them have guns like muskets and stuff, really outdated weaponry. By and large, they're all carrying traditional Chinese martial arts weapons like swords, bow staffs, what have you. Some of them are even just rocking the old meat mittens, but they're looking for a fight either way. And this is shaping up to be one of the most ridiculous battles of all time. I mean, this is the type of stuff you get drunk at the bar and ask your buddy, like, hey, you think you could take on all 300 Spartans if you had a machine gun? Like, that's exactly what's about to go on here. I mean, in one corner, you've got an 18-year-old Marine with a machine gun, and in the other corner, you have 200 martial artists with, like, bow staffs and shit. You literally have Gun Fu versus Kung Fu, okay? And here's the kicker with the entire thing. The Society of the Righteous and Harmonious Fist legitimately and wholeheartedly believes that their martial arts training has made them impervious to bullets. Yeah.
That kind of confidence is scary, though.
So this entire horde of Kung Fu fighters just starts running at Daly as fast as they can as he opens fire with his machine gun, and they fight well into the night. The rest of the Marines were a couple miles away. They found the reinforcements, but now it's too dark for them to travel in this rioting city at night safely, so they've adopted a little defensive position, and they're just holding position until daylight. They're literally forced to just sit there and listen to the machine gun fire and the yelling and the screaming and machine gun fire, and then suddenly the machine gun runs out of ammo, and then there's bolt action rifle fire, fire. He gets the machine gun reloaded. There's more machine gun fire, and this goes on for hours, and then it progressively just gets slower, and there's less machine gun fire,
Imagine their
less
faces
screaming,
like when they think
and
he
less
would die
machine
in a
gun
couple
fire,
of
and less
seconds,
screaming,
but
and
he
then
just keeps
suddenly it
going
just
for
stops.
hours.
At this point, the Marines have to accept the fact that their friend has just died courageously in battle, fighting an entire mob by himself because they left him alone, and all the civilians that they've been tasked with protecting are going to be slaughtered. And now all they can do is sit there and wait for the sun to come up. So the sun comes up and the Marines start making their way back to the legation center, but they're kind of dragging their feet because, well, they know what they're going to find. They're really just there to recover the remains of Private Daly and make sure that those are taken care of. And they start making their way there, and as they get closer, they're like, man, Private Daly really took out a lot of these guys. That's impressive. And they get closer and like, holy shit, he took out a ton of these guys. This is the most aerodynamic mass grave I've ever seen. And they get to the top of the wall, and there's Private Daly smoking his pipe, leaning up against his machine gun, and they're like, holy shit, you made it. And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Well, we heard the machine gun stop firing, and we just assumed that you'd been killed. He's like, no. I only quit firing because they quit coming. Dan Daly has effectively pulled off the impossible. He has single-handedly defeated 200 rebels by himself, saving all of the civilians, as well as saving the day. All the Marines are like, holy shit.
It's like as if he was, he didn't know that he was a game character.
Yeah, that's my fault. I was like, he had a dead eye, like, the redemption. He was like, and then.
If there ever was any kind of like godly intervention, from, I'm thinking, a Pantheon style, when they were, throwing the dice and deciding who's gonna win, I think there was like a lot of dice in his favor.
Shit, we're gonna nominate this guy for the Medal of Honor because this is incredible. All the businessmen and the delegates are like, oh my god, we've seen what one Marine can do, and now we've got 1,200 Marines. We're definitely gonna make it out of this alive. Hooray. And all the missionaries are like, oh my god, this is not what we meant when we said we wanted to make these people more holy. Shortly after this, Dan Daly would be awarded his first Medal of Honor for the battle, and then he would go on to...
Like, with the holes.
Like, holy, but holy.
Yeah, it took me a while, thank you.
No problem, you're welcome.
Continue serving in the Marine Corps as if nothing had happened. Okay, fast forward 15 years, now Gunnery Sergeant Daly has been involved in every military conflict the US has for the past 2 decades. He is one of the most experienced combat veterans in the entire US military, and he is a living legend in the Marine Corps.
Yeah,
and on October 24th
right?
of 1915, Gunnery Sergeant Daly would find himself leading a platoon of men through Haiti during the Cocos Rebellion. Just after his entire company would cross a river, his entire company would be attacked on all 3 sides by over 400 Cocos rebels, forcing them to retreat back into the river. And while doing so, the horse carrying the crew-served machine gun would be shot and sink to the bottom of the river, as the remaining Marines continued to cross the river before adopting a defensive position to repel the attack until nightfall. It is now pitch black outside, and Gunnery Sergeant Daly knows as soon as the sun comes up, they are going to get attacked again, and the only chance they have is to get that machine gun back from the bottom of the river. So he takes off by himself in the dark of night, goes all the way back to the river, and just begins diving to the bottom of the river, trying to find this dead horse with the machine gun strapped to it. And after hours of trying, he finally finds this...
He looks like he's crying, I don't know why.
His eyes are shiny, maybe the lights.
But they weren't like that before.
Maybe he's crying, maybe he's getting emotional about it.
I don't know, maybe.
Horse
I don't think
manages
so. I
to
think
go
it's just
down, untie
lights.
the machine gun, come back up for air, go back down again, getting pieces, ammunition, the gun itself, the tripod. He gathers up all of this stuff, gets it out of the river, and then straps it to his back and carries it back to his men. Bear in mind, that is over 200 pounds of equipment, and this guy is 5'6", 135 pounds, but he gets it done anyways. Now, Marines believe in a couple things when it comes to a gunfight. Number 1, bring a gun. Number 2, bring friends with guns. Number 3, decide to be aggressive enough, quickly enough. If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that he is not about to use this machine gun for self-defense. He's about to use this machine gun for self-offense. First thing in the morning, he gets his men together. They launch an attack first, scattering the enemy into the jungle, retreating, and Daly has effectively saved himself and all of his men, earning himself his second Medal of Honor. Fast forward 2 years, June 1st, 1917, it's World War I, and Daly is now a first sergeant, leading an entire platoon of young, inexperienced Marines into the Battle of Belleau Wood. If you don't know the Battle of Belleau Wood, the Germans are just rampaging through France, making a beeline right towards Paris. And at Belleau Wood, the US Army, the Marine Corps, the French Army, and the British Army all get together to stop the German military in their tracks. Now, this made it not only a strategic battlefield, but a symbolic battlefield, because how dare you stop the mighty German military? Now they're going to hit back twice as hard just to prove that it was a fluke. Because of this, right after they stopped the German military on June 1st, the French military is like, okay, we stopped them, let's take the W and head back to Paris and we'll fight from there. We don't want to get slaughtered in this wood line by the Germans because they're pissed. And it is at this point that the Marine leadership famously responded by saying, and I quote, "Retreat? Hell, we just got here." And then the Marine Corps pretty much dons their gas masks, fixes bayonets, and proceeds to fight their ass off for the next 26 days straight. Okay, here's what I need you to understand. On paper, the Marine Corps should absolutely not win this fight. They are both outnumbered and outclassed. The German military is one of the most veteran fighting militaries on the planet at this point in time, and the Marine Corps is primarily comprised of a bunch of 18-year-old kids that have never seen combat. However, leading those 18-year-old kids is a bunch of fucking badasses like Dan Daly. Okay, this video started...
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, if I would be a soldier and I had this commander,
Right?
and all those stories, like, oh, when he was 18, he killed 200 people alone,
Yeah, but
and then he did basically the same some years later. You're
So I think
you're
we're
like, oh,
fine.
that's no problem. Yeah, like, well, here, well, no problem. We can go. This fight, no problem. Let's go.
But this just shows exactly like how important morale is. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's the point that he
In
makes in a
combat.
lot of videos, you know, even with the animals, like in the funny way, or you know, in any way, that, you know, forcing people, enlisting them and forcing them to fight. Fear is not a good motivator at all to be a good soldier. But if you, it's exactly like I said, if I had someone like that, it's basically like, I don't know, Gandalf leading me into battle. Like, he knows what he's doing. So I'm not scared that much that I'm going to die, because this guy just, you know, he murdered 200 people with a gun machine. So he's probably gonna protect me. And even if not, then I'm sure whatever motivational speech he would give, I'm gonna believe, because I know that he lives it.
Yeah, but that's true. Your morale is crucial
Yeah.
when it comes to military conflict. There is this story about those soldiers of the Third Reich
Mm-hmm.
that were this whole how do you say it? The corps, the group of soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Like formation?
Yeah, like
Formation is more fun.
yeah, but I don't know quite well how big they were. If it was like a couple of hundreds, couple of thousands, I don't remember.
Mhm.
But they were made out of the former Hitlerjugend boys.
Uh-huh.
So they were the boys who were fed the Nazi propaganda for like all of their lives, because they started, you know, very early.
Mhm.
And then when the war broke down, then they were like the most devoted soldiers.
Yeah.
And there was this whole like a squadron of them, and they were able to do things unimaginable. Like they were, if they were outnumbered and with no chance of victory,
Yeah, because you
they were a
believe you are
terrifying
right.
force, because they were so
Yeah.
motivated to fight.
Yeah.
With him being a paperboy from New York, he is now a 45-year-old man with 2 medals of honor that has been in the Marine Corps since he was 16 years old. This man is a grizzled veteran that has been there, done that, and has a t-shirt, and he is about to don his plot armor and fuck shit up. So the Battle of Belleau kicks off on June 1st. Pretty much immediately, First Sergeant Daly's lieutenant gets shot, and he is now out of the fight, okay? Okay, if you don't know what that means, the officer is the one guy on the battlefield that sorta kinda pretends like he gives a fuck, and he is now gone. The regulator is off the war machine, and First Sergeant Dan Daly is now in charge of his entire company, unopposed. Fast forward, June 5th, German artillery strikes the ammunition depot, lighting everything on fire. Dan Daly leads his entire platoon in, sets the fire out, prevents all the ammunition from exploding, saves the entire battle. Fast forward 5 days, June 10th, the German machine gun squad would try to advance on Daly's company. Daly would get up by himself with nothing but 3 frag grenades and his Colt 1911, using the 3 grenades to disable the machine gun before approaching, shooting their commanding officer, killing him, and taking the other 14 Germans as prisoners of war. Fast forward a couple of hours, still June 10th, Dan Daly looks around at the faces of the young men that he's leading through this battle, and they're looking tired. They're looking like this is the worst time of their life, and it is at this point that Dan Daly decides that he needs to get aggressive enough quickly enough. This battle's effectively been a stalemate for the last 10 days, and he's had enough of this bullshit, so he gets up, walks right out into the open in this wheat field that's functioning as no man's land between the Marines and the Germans. He looks at the Germans' line, turns around, looks at his Marines, and yells, "Come on, you sons of bitches, do you want to live forever?" before charging at the German line. All of his Marines, that's Dan fucking Daly, were gonna follow him, so they charged too. In an act of pure hyper-aggression, Dan Daly's company would catch the Germans off guard and would actually manage to punch through their line, causing all the other Marines to become hyper-aggressive and attack as well, effectively setting off a chain reaction that would lead to the Marine Corps pushing the Germans all the way out of Belleau over the course of the next 16 days, where on June 26, American High Command would receive a single telegram, and I quote, "Woods, now Marine Corps entirely, giving America its first win in World War I and the Marine Corps its new moniker. Due to the blatant hyper-aggression of the Marines, the Germans began calling them the Teufelhunden, or the Devil Dogs. And it's all because of the actions of First Sergeant Dan Daly. After the Battle of Belleau, Daly would continue to serve throughout World War I until on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, the Germans would surrender, effectively ending World War I, which is why in America we celebrate Veterans Day on November 11th, which is also, by sheer coincidence, I'm sure, Dan Daly's birthday. The guy's the main character. I don't know what to tell you. So then, because Dan Daly was like the
Yeah,
badass at
definitely.
the Battle of Belleau, he gets put up for yet another Medal of Honor, potentially becoming the first man in American history to pull off the Medal of Honor hat trick, getting the three-peat. Absolutely everybody that was there that day all signs off on it. His men, his chain of command, they do the paperwork, they send it off to DC to get this man his medal. Then the political side is like, no, absolutely not. We don't care if he earned it or not. It's not about getting what you deserve. It's about doing what we think is fair, and we don't think it's fair that he should get 3 medals of honor, so we're just not going to give it to him because we said so. Go fuck yourself. So instead, they go ahead and they give him the Distinguished Service Cross and the Navy Cross, which, if you don't know, both of those are like tied for the second highest military honor, because apparently second plus second equals first, I guess. Anyways, so he gets those in.
Maybe they were afraid that he would do like a career in politics or something like that. Maybe
Would
they,
have too much influence.
yeah, because
Yeah.
you know he would become maybe like a Zhukov, you know, for Soviet
Mm.
Union, that you have such a powerful, popular, and devoted military figure that can serve, that he can serve like a counterbalance
I
to
think you
the
may be right.
politicians.
I think you may be right, and they all would be forced to respect him even more, you know, through all these ordeals and, like you say, like saluting and everything. It's not like they could publicly oppose him because he has 3 medals. of
Yeah,
honor.
exactly,
No one else has that.
Like there is a guy who was elected as a president 1 year ago, and there is a guy who was Marine for 30 years,
Yeah.
got 3 medals of honor, and so who the public is gonna listen to?
Yeah.
So I think that could be the reason
I
for
think
that.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
But he would really be like Zhukov, you know, the whole chest of medals, and then 3 medals of honor. Like, yeah, look at this. How many you got? What? 1? Look at this.
Instead. And then, bear in mind, this is 1919, right after World War I. Like a month later in 1919, the military creates a new law that you're only allowed to earn 1 Medal of Honor. Okay, Dan Daly is so fucking gangster, they literally had to change the rules on how many times you're allowed to achieve the highest honor in the military. After World War I, he would retire as a sergeant major, having turned down becoming a commissioned officer on multiple occasions, citing that he would rather be an outstanding sergeant than just another officer. He would then go on to work as a bank security guard, where for 17 years he would be the living embodiment of the world's shittiest lottery ticket for anybody dumb enough to try to rob that bank. Could you imagine just being some bank robber trying to get some quick cash and you run into the most gangster Marine of all time? Okay, I'm just gonna throw it out there. He didn't retire from being a bank security guard until 1936, and John Dillinger's bank robbing spree was from 1933 to 1934. So for a couple of years there was a significantly greater than 0% chance that the world almost got the ultimate clash of the bank robbing gangster and the most gangster Marine to ever live. And I'm going to go ahead and write that down in my book as the coolest thing to never actually happen. In conclusion, Mark Twain is frequently accredited with the famous quote, "It's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog," when in reality it wasn't Mark Twain that said that first. It was actually Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star Army general and the 34th President of the United States, somebody that would have known good and well who Sergeant Major Dan Daly was. And I think that maybe, just maybe, he had that 5'6", 135-pound devil dog on his mind when he came up with that quote. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. I cannot believe that my favorite character from Starship Troopers is actually based off Dan Daly, and I had no idea.
Come on, you ape! You want to live forever?
Well, good as always or good as always?
Yeah, as always, great.
Yeah, that was really solid. And yeah, again, these stories, I will say it again, I think I said it before, so sorry for that, but with the content we watch on this channel, either from Oversimplified or any other animations or historical, it's a nice refreshment when he speaks about it with this patriotism and this like feeling that this what we've done and how they've opposed Germans or other people, how amazing it was and the sacrifice, like how epic, rather than like learning about the grime of it and how horrible it was, which it was both, of course, but it's quite a refresher every time that we watch him with this kind of come at it with this kind of energy, instead of just feeling depressed about the state of the world and the future and suffering and everything.
Yeah, he shows like the wholesome side of the
Yeah, as
war.
wholesome as a story about
Yeah,
killing
but
200 people can be, but yeah.
yeah, but there is a heroism in that.
Yeah.
There is like a bravery, you know, the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So he shows the good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's nice to have something like that, you know, not only like analysis of how many people died in Second World War, how many people suffered, blah blah blah. You know, there is a lot of that, and I'm not saying that we should stop doing this.
Yeah, it's probably.
But
if
it's
you
good.
had to-
It's good to have someone who is also like, yeah, the war is horrible, but we have some examples of bravery and of like a moral virtue
Yeah, exactly.
in those people,
Yeah, the
and those are
bravery
the
and-
examples
yeah.
of them. And one thing I wanted to say, I need to really learn those imperial units, because it always sounds like he said, "Oh, but he was only 5 foot, what, 3 or 6?" He said
5'6".
5
You're
foot.
6 foot.
Yeah,
You're 6
five,
feet.
Yeah, I know that I'm 6 feet, but I don't know what is the difference between 5.6 and 6 and 100 something pounds. And I'm like,
Pounds are easy.
100 is a lot, right?
Pounds are easy. It's almost 2 pounds per kilo. So you just have to divide it by half. More or less. It's like 1 and 8, I think. So it's easy.
You know that the reason why people think that Napoleon was short is because of the imperial units?
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
That he was 5 feet something, but in French feet, not in the English ones,
Yeah.
which made him significantly taller. than
Yeah, I
people
heard
thought
he was not that short, yeah.
Which does not happen when you are using centimeters and meters.
I mean, I can handle
I think
inches.
every Fat Electrician videos I'm telling about
Yeah, I think so.
meters.
But yeah, I mean, you know, the distances, the meters, kilometers, whatever, that's not so bad. I always find the temperature the hardest. I just cannot do that calculation in my head, even though I am aware that it's not that hard. It's just something inside me that resists. I can't change Celsius to Fahrenheit. But yeah. Yeah, but really good, and it's interesting stories. It's just I'm trying to imagine what it's like to be that guy, and then you work in this bank as a security officer, and you spend your day. So maybe it's a boring shift. There's 12 hours. You're going around patrolling, and you're like, oh, remember that day when I murdered 200 people who were running at me with my machine gun? That was pretty neat. They're like, oh, what are you doing there? He just goes around on a
I
second
wouldn't
loop
use
around
the
them.
word murder. I mean,
But
he
killed, I
killed
guess.
them, but
Yeah,
it
maybe
wasn't
murder is
murder.
too hard of a word. Yeah, like shot is what I was looking for.
Yeah, but I cannot imagine what goes in your head when you are like in the World War I and talking about how specific this warfare was. You know, with those trenches on one side, on the other, and there
Yeah.
is a no man ground, and you're just, I'm gonna run at them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Like it's a different kind of like a bravery. It sounds almost like psychotic.
Yeah.
Because you need to be like really in a different mind zone, in a mind zone that I cannot even comprehend having. That you're like, there are Germans there with machine guns pointed at me, so I'm gonna run at them.
Yeah, it's
And maybe I'm gonna die, and those people behind me are gonna die too. But those behind, they are gonna achieve our goal.
Yeah, it's unimaginable for me because I know how difficult it is for me to take risks in everyday life, which has nothing to do with life or death situations, and then to consciously make this decision because like I imagine being a soldier, there is a lot of denial and rejection, so you don't imagine that you're going to die, and you think you're going to be the one who survives. Of course there's those mechanisms, but how do those mechanisms work when you have 5 seconds until you have to run out of the trench and you know your chances at best 50-50, and then you're just like, I'm gonna move and I'm gonna put myself in this situation? It's just,
I think that's just an example, of how we can mold a human person, a human.
Yeah, like your instincts, because that's how the military shaped you, that just there's an order, so you just do it.
But you can be molded in very different ways. You can mold someone to be a scientist who can create solutions that are unimaginable to other humans, and also you can take the same person and mold it to become a soldier and to run at the bullets, to kill other person with their own hands. It's just that we are living in those times, of peace, that we are not.
Well, peace where we are. Peace where we are, not in general.
Yeah, but most of the world, I mean, more than ever, are living in the times of peace, and because of that, we are not molded as much, because we don't need to be.
Yeah, and then you can be individuals and do whatever you like. And for some reason, people still don't like that. Well, let's move on.
Thank you guys for watching with
Yeah,
us.
and remember to leave us your suggestions, which video of Fat Electrician you want us to do the most, and we will do that in some time.
In some time, yeah. Thank you
Thank
and
you.
have a nice day.
Bye.
Goodbye.